Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Always glad to have back my friend, former U.S. Representative out of the great state of Texas. It's Ted Poe. Judge, how are you?
I'm doing great, Joe.
It's always a pleasure to have you on. I love that you're a judge. First of all, I love that we're friends, but I love that you're a judge and you've got so much knowledge about the law. And I wanted to hit on a couple of court cases that happened recently that I need your enlightenment on, if you don't mind.
All right.
The Supreme Court actually heard the case brought by landlords who are suffering because nobody has to pay rent anymore. I guess because of COVID-19, rent is just something you can blow off if you want, even if you get unemployment forever, even if you get PPP and get some extra money there, even if we send you a stimulus check, you don't have to pay your rent. Well, the moratorium, the stopping of this moratorium of people getting evicted has passed. And Joe Biden tried to defend this, and the Biden administration lost. Supreme Court said you can't extend the moratorium. So Biden came out a couple of days later, like Obama did when you were serving. Obama said, I've got a pen and I've got a cell phone. I'll just go around Congress. I'll go around the courts and do whatever I want as a tyrant and a king. Biden said, yeah, we're going to extend the moratorium through the CDC somehow, Ted. So explain to me, the Supreme Court, the law of the land said you may not extend this. And like with DACA, this president says, we're just going to extend it anyway.
Joe Biden has ignored the ruling of the Supreme Court because they don't agree with him. And so he is going to violate the law of the land, the Supreme Court ruling, and do what he wants to do anyway. He's acting in spite of the law, in spite of the Constitution, because he thinks it's Burger King. He can have it his way, but it's not. And he has to follow the Supreme Court ruling, but he's not going to. And who's going to call him out? Well, I think the Republicans should file suit immediately to enforce the Supreme Court ruling and not allow him to just issue another edict to expand the failure to or not paying of rent because he wants to do that. And the Supreme Court ruled the right way. He doesn't have the right to do that. He does it anyway.
You know, it's not like we're not caring people. We don't want people to be evicted if they can't afford it. And if coronavirus, not of their own volition, they just can't afford it. Coronavirus did this. But you've had a year and a half now. The economy is reopened now. You've got 1 million more jobs available right now than people willing to go to work. We've been overpaying them in unemployment. Some are getting temporary disability that they shouldn't be getting anymore. Some people are just skating through, working off the books. They've got some money coming in. They're going on trips and going to ball games and not paying their rent. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I guess back to the legal form of it, is that the only thing Republicans can do? They can sue a guy who is flagrantly violating the law, the ruling that was made by the Supreme Court? I mean, isn't that the be-all, end-all? Hey, we made the ruling. What are you doing?
Well, yes, and I think that they should file an action of contempt of the Supreme Court for failure to abide by the Supreme Court ruling. And there are some legal ways to fulfill the obligation of Biden to follow the law. And in spite of whether you think the ruling's a good idea or a bad idea, Biden isn't going to follow it. And that's what the crux is. We can't have presidents who have cases before the Supreme Court. They lose, the Supreme Court tells them to do something, and they ignore it, no matter what they rule. And in this case, of course, I actually agree with the Supreme Court on this. You got landowners, homeowners that are renting out their property. They don't have any income. They're still having to pay property tax.
Right.
And this moratorium should have ended, and it's not because Biden, like I said, thinks it's Burger King. He can have it his way.
It's Judge Ted Poe. Go follow him at Judge Ted Poe on Twitter, also on Facebook. So let me ask you about DACA that I mentioned quickly. I know that DACA has been upheld by courts, which are wrong. They shouldn't be. This is deferred action for childhood arrivals. This is where somebody is here illegally. Obama said, I know the laws of the land. I know the laws in the books. I cannot do anything about it. Oh, by the way, wink, wink, nod, nod. Give me a fee. And we'll ignore you for 2 years. We'll pretend that you're not illegal. You can go to school. You can apply for jobs. You can compete with Americans, do anything you want. And every 2 years, you have to re-up and just sign again and give us another fee. This is another skirting of the law. How do they get away with that? And why would a court, in your opinion, as a judge, why would a court say that's okay that you're circumventing the law here as long as you're getting a fee from these illegal aliens that are here?
Well, I think the court that rules that way is in violation of their obligation as a court. But they rule that way because they are supporting Obama's decision. And I think they're wrong in doing that. And it's many people think they're wrong in doing that. But that's the way that the court ruled. And they are skirting the definition of the law and making something changing the definition, as Clinton would do, change the definition of is.
It depends on what the definition of is. That's exactly what he said. It's Judge Ted Poe. Go follow him everywhere. We always appreciate. Also, former U.S. Representative Ted Poe has got a great wealth of knowledge on the law and great wealth of knowledge on the border. You've been there several times. The border's broken. Ted, we know it's broken. It continues to be broken. I think last month we had the highest number of illegal entries, the second highest in our history. Just in 1 month, it was over 200,000. It was 250 maybe, something like that. And it's not slowing down. What exactly is the plan here, do you think? All they would have to do is roll back to what Trump was doing, and this would stop immediately. They're letting everybody in. We're hearing 10% of the people coming in have COVID-19. We know that it's surging. COVID is surging now in Texas because of the illegal border crossings, and that we're just letting them go in Brownsville and McAllen and all over the place. What needs to happen right now, and what recourse does Texas have? Like Abbott has said, we're going to charge him with trespassing. That's a good one. It's a good start. But what else can Texas and California and New Mexico and Arizona do?
I think Texas needs to enforce the rule of law on the border. They can do that. We have the National Guard. I think that we should send more National Guard on the border. But we can also sue the federal government to make them follow the law that is already the law of the land. Isn't it a shame that people from all over the world can't come into the United States legally because Biden won't let them? You got to have a COVID shot, COVID passport to move to and from in the United States. But people who want to illegally come into the United States from the southern border, hey, come on in. We don't care whether you have COVID, whether you are coming in legally, whether you have been vaccinated. We don't care if you're a criminal. You can come in the southern border, but the same rule doesn't apply to Americans, and it doesn't apply to foreign nationals who want to come in to the United States the right way. This is absolute nonsense. And meanwhile, we are colonizing. I say we. Biden is colonizing the South, Texas, and the Southwest with foreign nationals, and I think he's doing that on purpose. And that is, I think, a violation of his oath of office to uphold the Constitution and protect the sovereignty of the United States.
And it's all about getting a bunch of blue voters into Texas and these other states as well. It's Judge Ted Poe. I'll add to what you just said. In fact, starting next month in New York City, you've got to prove you had the jab if you want to eat at a restaurant inside, if you want to go to a gym, or if you want to go to some event that is happening indoors. You have to prove you had a vaccine, but you come across the southern border, get some money, get on a Greyhound or a plane, and go anywhere you want. And nobody says a damn word about it. It's Ted Poe. Go follow him at Judge Ted Poe. In Texas specifically, and this is going to be happening around other states as well, Governor Abbott said, I'm going to make it illegal for you to mandate vaccinations or masks when going to school. And masks specifically is what's being challenged. A judge just heard the case from Bexar County, where San Antonio is, and from several other counties that said, we want to mask up the kids and the teachers, and the governor doesn't have the right to tell us what to do. Ted, does he have the right to say you must not limit freedom of the people of Texas by forcing kids who are not susceptible to COVID-19, who have a death rate of almost zero from COVID-19? Does the governor have the right to say you may not restrict their freedom or not? I mean, what's going on here?
Well, that case out of San Antonio is going to be appealed to the Texas Supreme Court. We'll see what the Texas Supreme Court says and whether the Supreme Court upholds the judge's ruling that allows the masking of the schools in San Antonio and other places. And there are several lawsuits that are pending. The Supreme Court will resolve all of those, and whether or not they'll agree with the governor, I don't know. I think that the governor is absolutely right. He's within his powers as governor to do this. These little fiefdoms throughout the state, these folks that are in charge of these counties, I don't think have the authority to overrule the governor's decision one way or the other.
And
we'll
again,
see.
and the governor's
Supreme Court will rule that way.
Right, and the governor's not restricting rights. He is actually promoting liberty and freedom, whereas these counties and these school boards are trying to restrict rights, and for no reason. And then you see the mayors show up on MSNBC almost with tears in their eyes. Why doesn't Governor Abbott want to protect the children? That is such bunk, Ted. And I'm so sick of the left doing that. We have to build the new library. We need a new millage because of the children. We need pre-K for everybody so we can teach them CRT for the children. Why can't we raise taxes for the children? Now we're going to mask them up for the children. Listen, I'm 55 and I'm still not susceptible to COVID-19 because I'm healthy and I do the right things. I don't have any comorbidities. I don't want to wear a mask, but I have to when I fly, when I do this and do that. Forcing a child to have a lack of oxygen through a mask that many scientific studies show doesn't block crap doesn't make any sense to me. Why do you think the left wants them all to mask up? It's not really to protect the children. What do you think it is? What is the game here?
It's about the left's agenda to move to a more socialist environment where power is what they're after, the absolute power. To tell a citizen, to tell a child, you must wear a mask to go to school. You must have a shot to go to school. It's all about power. And the more they can promote the fear of the COVID-19 pandemic throughout the United States, the more they can get people to say, oh, we got to have the government take care of us. Right. And it's about power. That's what it's really about. Otherwise, you wouldn't see folks up in the party Obama had all not wearing masks. If they really believed that the masks were important, they'd have been wearing them. So,
Ted, stop it. They were all very sophisticated. They were sophisticated. They were all highly sophisticated and vaccinated. That's okay. That's just fine. And Rashida Tlaib just went to a wedding. The same day she attacked Rand Paul for saying resist the masks and the vaccine mandate, she's partying hardy, with no mask on and just dancing and busting a move. It's all crazy to me.
It's power. It's all about power.
I agree with you. Let me very quickly ask you about infrastructure. This bill that just passed the Senate, 19 Republicans voted for it, and they all make me sick. They shall be voted out. I like some of them. They got to go. This has about 84 or 86% non-infrastructure in it. It's the Green New Deal. It's about 14 or 16% infrastructure. Ted, how does something like this happen? And now they're talking about, that was 1.2 trillion. Now they're talking about 3.5 trillion more that I fear might go through as well. Talk to me about how you can call it infrastructure when it's really not, and how they're getting away with pushing this Green New Deal on us.
Well, they got away with it because Republicans crossed over and voted for it and allowed it to pass. And I agree with you. I'm disappointed in the Republicans that allowed that document to pass. And what has happened, and it's been happening for years, we have legislation that doesn't pertain to just one subject. And then all of this legislation gets in one bill, and it's called some fancy name like infrastructure. Yeah. 14% is infrastructure. The rest of it is many programs for the blue states. And legislation should always be limited to the subject matter at hand, but Congress has never done that. They should. That's one way they can prevent this from happening. And in this infrastructure bill, the idea that government is going to get the authority to tax how many miles you drive.
It's in there.
Yes, it's in there. It's allowing that study to be done. And, that's another limitation on our freedom. I mean, really, we're going to let the government know where we go and how many miles we drive, and then tax us for driving that? Well, that, of course, that's going to raise taxes for everybody who drives to work, or like in Texas, the vehicle is the workstation of many
we love our trucks.
Texas.
Oh, yeah, love our trucks.
Yeah, we love our trucks, And, you got plumbers and welders, and that vehicle, they're going to tax that. Yeah. And then all of these trucks you see on the freeways that are moving goods throughout the country, like from farmers or ranchers, going to tax those. And that'll all be passed on to the citizen. And it's all to get us from quit driving vehicles. Yes, in Texas, we love our trucks. It's a big state. Contrary to Delaware, which you can walk across the state, in Texas, it's 890 miles across the state.
Right.
We need a vehicle, and we're not going to be able to do it with a Prius. We actually need real vehicles, and so it's. I
felt bad
for driving.
I was at the mall the other day. I put 2 Priuses in the back of my truck, and then we took. It's Ted Poe. We appreciate the time, Ted. Give me a quick comment. I know that you saw my interview yesterday about the Alamo. I'll just ask you very quickly, and give me 30 seconds or so if you don't mind. Were those who actually defended the Alamo against Santa Anna the tyrant, were they a bunch of slave masters that just wanted to keep slavery in Texas, and that's why they fought against this good guy Santa Anna? Is there any truth to that at all?
No, there's no truth to it. Most of the people at the Alamo had just gotten to Texas, and they were from all over the United States, including 6 from New York, Vermont, and, of course, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, and foreign countries like Scotland. And they had come to Texas, and the only real Texans in the Alamo were the Tejanos, and those were the Mexican Texans, 11, that fought and died. There wasn't a discussion about slavery. It was a discussion about the invasion of a dictator to take away civil rights that they had under the Mexican Constitution. And one last thing, the flag that flew over the the Alamo was the Mexican flag with the eagle removed and the number 1824 put on the flag. Why? That is the Constitution of Mexico of 1824 that they were fighting to get the Mexican government to reestablish, that Santa Anna had abolished. Slavery was not the issue. Freedom was the issue, and it was an issue for everybody. And one more thing, there were other areas of Mexico that were in rebellion because of the dictator Santa Anna. There was the Republic of the Rio Grande. Laredo was the capital, and even the Yucatan was a republic for several years, and they rebelled because the Constitution was abolished. They formed their own country, later joined back to Mexico. All of that rebellion was because a dictator abolished democracy and human rights, and that's why they were fighting at the Alamo and in other places.
And he lied to get into that position, much like Hugo Chavez did in Venezuela. Once he had the position, he became the tyrant that he was. That's what the fight was about. We'll talk even more about this next time, Ted, because I want to know why any idiot out in Houston would be writing a book like this, pretending it was about something else. I'm not really sure what the end game is, but I always appreciate the time, my friend. I appreciate the knowledge. Let's do it again soon.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
All right, brother. We're back after this. Stay right here.